Hi, I'm Nate from Recap Now. Today, I'm going to recap a 2006 comedy thriller movie called Lies and Alibis. A man who runs an alibi agency for cheating husbands is in a fix when he gets into trouble with one of his clients. He needs the help of his attractive assistant and partner to remedy the situation. Let's find out what the movie is. A man sprays breath freshener into his mouth outside the door of a motel room just before his sweetheart opens it. Unbeknownst to the couple, a private detective in a car in the parking lot photographs them through the window. Suddenly, the photographer notices another man walking towards the same room. When Ray enters, Dorothy tells him she can explain what's going on. Her lover believes the man is her husband, so Ray shows them the red car parked outside and informs the woman that it is a private investigator her husband hired. To defuse the situation, the man gives Dorothy a pair of sunglasses, instructs her lover to walk to a nearby gas station where he can call a cab, and promises to take care of the photographer. 2 days later, Vic apologizes for losing track of his client the previous night. However, Ray claims that this is the third time he has made a mistake in the last 3 months. So the boss gives the employee his severance pay and fires him. In his workplace, the man encounters Lola, a woman who wants to be his assistant. To do the interview, Ray takes her out to lunch at a restaurant. Suddenly, Putty, an acquaintance from his con man days, interrupts his breakfast. The man inquires about Ray's previous partner, Jack McCadden, who he has heard is back in the country. Ray claims he hasn't heard from Jack in years, so Putty informs him that his former colleague is wanted for a $5 million bounty. Before leaving, the man gives Ray his business card. After Putty leaves, Ray asks Lola to describe the man based solely on their brief conversation. She believes he's a high school graduate who now works as a book salesperson or missionary, but has connections to a criminal organization. Meanwhile, in a different part of the restaurant, Putty informs his boss, the Mormon, that he has heard that Jack McCadden stole $15 million from the Sultan of Qatar. He adds that the enigmatic man grabbed Ray's profit cut and fled, hinting that the former partners are not on good terms. Adele, the Mormon's wife, says that she thinks Ray is handsome. Concurrently, the ex-con man receives an urgent phone call about a client. He then informs Lola that she has been hired and requests that she begin working immediately. During the vehicle ride, Ray explains that their risk assessment and management firm is actually a cover for a company that works with clients who want to discreetly and successfully cheat on their spouses. When Lola inquires about helping men cheat on their husbands, he emphasizes that he is an equal opportunity employer who also accepts female clients. Dorothy gives Ray a key card at the Elroy Hotel, and the two go to find Robert Hatch, who is currently with his two mistresses, and instruct him to get to the lobby right away. Ray delivers Lola a cheap counterfeit jewelry in the foyer and tells her to play along when Robert's angry wife arrives. Moments after, Judith Hatch comes and chastises her husband for having an affair. She insults Lola, believing her to be the mistress, so the lady smacks the wife and says that she is coming to deliver the expensive jewels Robert purchased for her. Judith embraces her husband, ecstatic and relieved, while holding the imitation jewelry. After the elderly couple leaves with their driver, Hannibal, the assistant, observes that anyone can get away with anything these days. However, Ray stresses that they do not justify crimes or condone acting as a tool of vengeance. 10 days later, Robert stops by the office, and Ray warns him to be careful the next time because his wife discovered the hotel matches in his coat pocket. Then, Robert requests that the man take his son as a client because he wishes to maintain a discreet affair before his marriage. The former con artist declines since he no longer conducts fieldwork, claiming Lola can. However, the older man insists and pledges that the woman will be his handler going forward. The following day, Ray meets with Robert's son, Wendell, and they discuss the plan for the client to go to a bed and breakfast in Santa Barbara with his sweetheart under Ray's name, while the former con man goes to a brokers' convention in a hotel in San Francisco under Wendell's name. The client inquires what will happen if his fiancée calls, and the man tells him that all calls will be routed to him. That weekend, Wendell and his mistress, Heather, travel to Santa Barbara. The concerned man keeps gazing in the rearview mirror, worried that the woman's boyfriend is following them. Then they interact with Mr. Clump at the front desk, and the man turns over his bogus credit card to Ray Elliott. Meanwhile, during the brokers' conference, Ray bumps across Irv, an old acquaintance who goes by Michael, one of his aliases. The man inquires about Jack's whereabouts, and the former con man responds that he too wants to know where his partner is since he has a score to settle. While the couple makes love in the bed and breakfast, Ray settles into his hotel room. Heather later instructs Wendell to choke her as they carry out the deed. At first, the man is nervous, concerned that he may damage her, so she proposes a safe word to calm him down. Minutes later, Ray receives a call from the terrified client, who claims he killed his girlfriend. The handler instructs Wendell to call an ambulance, but the man refuses to go to jail because it would expose Ray's business and all of his clients. When Wendell begs him for assistance, the former con man recognizes Putty's card and devises a strategy. So he phones the man and gives him a freelance job taking care of Heather's physique. Soon, Putty and his accomplice Bobo come at the bed and breakfast, where the client mistakenly mentions his real identity, despite Ray's instructions not to. The next day, at a beachside cafe, the handler asks Wendell if anyone knew he was heading to Santa Barbara for the weekend. The man claims that his pals were aware of his plans, but they had no idea who he was traveling with. When Ray asks if he thinks anyone would look for him, the client cites Heather's Mexican-American lover, whom he believes will kill them both if he discovers what occurred. He adds that the man at the front desk may recognize his face. Then he mentions that while he was booked at the bed and breakfast under Ray's name, he wasn't actually present. Outside the diner, the handler contacts a helpline to report his stolen credit card. An imposing hitman kills his bound target in an unknown location. That evening, Ray pays a visit to Lola's apartment and requests that she provide an alibi, allowing him to stay from 7:30 p.m. until 9 a.m. The next day, the handler meets with Robert at the park to explain what happened to his son during the weekend. The older man promises Ray $23,000 to tie off any loose ends and ensure the cops never trace anything back to Wendell. Robert suddenly fears he's being duped and believes that if he pays the money, Heather would appear on a beach somewhere with the money. However, Ray says that the woman is dead and that the only reason he told the father what his son did was so that he could handle the situation himself. Across the field, the hitman pays close attention to the two men. Later, Ray visits the morgue to see his friend Cam, who claims to have Jack McCadden's corpse. However, when the man sees the body, he knows it is not his previous companion because he has a snake tattoo on his face. That afternoon, Santa Barbara detective Bryce asks Ray if he has ever seen Heather, and he responds no. The cop notices a coincidence. He lost his credit card the day before. Whoever allegedly took it checked into the bed and breakfast. Then she questions how a former con artist ended up beginning a consultancy business and recounts Ray's several aliases, hinting that the police are aware of his shady past and believe he murdered Jack. Before leaving, the woman takes a Polaroid of the man and enters the elevator. Just before the doors close, he takes her picture with his phone and requests an employee to download and print it. Minutes later, Lola wonders what the cop wanted with her boss, but he dismisses it and says he'll need her to manage some of his accounts in the coming weeks. Putty and Bobo arrive in the basement parking lot to pick up Ray, as the Mormon wishes to speak with him. In the house, Adele follows the man around, and when he politely declines her overtures, she claims she may be married to the Mormon, but he does not own her. She claims to be from a little town in South Dakota, and although living in a huge city, she feels trapped. Later, Ray meets with the Mormon, who offers to take him on as a client and provide alibis for his hitman business. When the man declines, claiming that his company does not cover up crimes, the Mormon reminds him that he already did, hinting that Putty told him about the bed and breakfast incident. Ray claims it is the first and last time it will happen, so the older man threatens to report him to the authorities as an accessory to the crime if he declines the offer. That evening, at a pub, Wendell and his pals confront the former con man about telling his father about Heather. When Ray backs him into a corner, the fearful man offers money to avoid being beaten up. As the handler exits the institution, someone knocks him out with a pipe to the head. Ray regains consciousness in an SUV and discovers that Heather's boyfriend is Hannibal, Robert's driver. The enraged man demands to know where his girlfriend is, But the former con man claims his credit card was stolen, and he did not accompany the woman to the bed and breakfast. Hannibal does not believe him, so he and his friends take the captive to an empty lot and beat him up. Ray eventually discloses that Wendell killed Heather and that they were having an affair behind his back. As the group prepares to leave to exact their retribution, the injured man stops them and explains there is a better method to take down Wendell without risking jail time. Hannibal declares that any strategy he devises must succeed, or he will execute Hatch's son himself. Minutes later, he receives a call from the Mormon, who informs him that Robert has placed a hit on him that afternoon. Ray advises the older man to take the position so he knows Hatch will not hire anybody else. The Mormon then suggests that if the former con man tells him where Jack is, they can call it even, but Ray does not respond. Later, the man visits Lola's apartment and opens up about his current circumstances. She wonders why he doesn't seek Jack for aid, and then concludes that he can't because he and Jack are the same person. She adds that the hypothesis makes sense because no one knows where he got the money to start his business, and he has never struck her as the type of person who follows orders from anyone. Ray, perplexed, adds, "It's interesting that she thinks he's Jack, while the cops believe he murdered the man, and the Mormon is confident he knows where he's hiding." The next day, the Mormon informs the handler that he needs an airtight alibi for Thursday while staying at the Elroy Hotel. Meanwhile, Lola meets with Robert and admits she knows he wants her employer dead. However, she adds that the man he hired to do the job is now working for Ray, so she offers doing it for him instead and tells him to bring $100,000 to the hotel tomorrow. Minutes later, the ex-con man notices Lola leaving the motel. Later, police officials question Wendell at the station about Ray's participation in Heather's case, particularly after they had an incident at a bar. Officer Sykes asks if he's ever visited a bed and breakfast in Santa Barbara, and he responds, no. Suddenly, the cop takes a Polaroid image, causing the guilty man to worry as the officer explains that it is so the innkeeper can choose from various faces when they interrogate him tomorrow about who might have been at the place when Heather was there. When the cops stand aside, Wendell rifles through the folder and discovers that Mr. Clump will be at the Elroy Hotel tomorrow at 6 p.m. Seconds later, the officers return and let the man depart. Then, Officer Sykes approaches the one-way mirror, revealing that Ray was on the opposite side the entire time. He praises the cop, who is a client, and offers him a discount for doing him a favor. Later, one of Ray's staff phones the innkeeper and informs him that he has won a free stay at the Elroy Hotel. Meanwhile, the Mormon notices the flowers and the note that a man named Bob sent to Adele. Concurrently, the woman discovers a note posted to her mirror, which she reads with delight. Ray surreptitiously speaks to Adele in the lingerie shop's dressing room, asking if she received the gift certificate he left for her. She replies, okay, so he tells her to go to the hotel room he reserved for them tomorrow at 6:15 p.m. In another section of the city, Wendell purchases a rifle. The next day, Detective Bryce receives word that something is going on at the Elroy Hotel later that afternoon. Later, Hannibal tells Ray about Mr. Clump's and Wendell's arrivals at the hotel. Meanwhile, Robert shows Lola that he has the money she requested, and she suggests they go up to his room. Minutes later, Detective Bryce arrives and enters the same elevator as Robert and Lola. Wendell poses as the innkeeper's grandson at the front desk, prompting Dorothy to give him the room number. Concurrently, the officers follow the trail they were given and knock on Mr. Clump's door, ignorant that the man had been brought there under the false premise of winning a contest. The Mormon and his two lackeys come moments later, and Dorothy hands him a key card. In Robert's chamber, Lola flirts with him, accepts the money, and vows to look after Ray. Meanwhile, Judith discovers a parcel by her front door containing a note from her husband directing Adele to meet him at the Elroy Hotel. Lola phones Ray from the bathroom and tells him she has completed her part of the plan, admitting that she was involved the entire time. In the hallway, a bellhop runs into the hitman. Robert proposes that they bathe together since he believes Lola wants to sleep with him. To pass the time, the woman mentions that she needs some ice for the champagne. Dorothy hands Adele a key card in the foyer when she informs her that she is coming to visit Bob. Minutes later, Dorothy calls Lola to let her know Adele is on her way to the 12th floor. So the woman walks to the elevator, Certain Putty is in the corridor where he can see inside the carriage, presses the button to open the doors, and compliments Adele's shoes so the lackey can hear his boss's wife's voice. Meanwhile, as Ray enters a room, the hitman is already waiting for him. Detective Bryce believes it is best if she takes the innkeeper somewhere else, so her partner radios for help. On the Mormon's room, Putty informs the boss that he saw Adele on the elevator, prompting him to suspect she is there to meet with Bob. So he contacts the front desk to see whether any Bobs or Roberts have checked in, and Dorothy gives him a R. Elliott's room number. After the three leaves, Lola enters the room and dumps Robert's cash into the briefcase containing the Mormon's payment for the hit. In the hallway, someone pushes a service cart with a lifeless body covered behind. In Robert's room, Adele takes off her coat and proceeds to the bathroom, only to see the unfamiliar man in the tub. Suddenly, the Mormon kicks open the door to find his wife and Robert in the bathroom. Meanwhile, Detective Bryce apprehends Wendell when he spots him holding a gun outside Mr. Clump's room. When the innkeeper spots the man, he informs the police that he is the person who checked in with Heather. After harassing Robert for several minutes, assuming he is his wife's lover, Putty tells the Mormon that it is nearly 6:15 p.m., the deadline for completing the task, which is revealed to be on Detective Bryce. He gets his weapon and orders his soldiers to remain behind with Adele and Robert. Concurrently, the hitman fires several shots into Ray's chest, takes a Polaroid photo, and records the image in his diary under the name Jack McCadden. Minutes later, the Mormon notices the cop in the hallway and orders her to return to the room. To his amazement, a dozen police officers are waiting with their rifles aimed at him. A cleaner discovers a dead body on Ray's bed. Lola overhears cops talking about Jack McCadden, who was discovered lifeless in his hotel room. So she hands Hannibal the briefcase, says it's his, and flees back to the elevator. The concerned woman then storms into the room, demanding to see the body. Meanwhile, cops arrest Wendell and the Mormon. To save themselves, Putty and Bobo take off their conspicuous clothing and throw it away. Lola smiles as the officers take her out of the room. Concurrently, an absolutely fine Ray walks out the hotel doors. In Robert's room, Judith stares down at her remorseful husband, who gives her a sheepish expression. Dorothy delivers Adele an envelope containing cash and a new identity, compliments of Ray. Later, Cam tells Ray that he rejected the 15 prior bodies he showed him because he wanted a good-looking body to pose with, suggesting that he and Jack McCadden are the same person. It also reveals that Cam was the one pushing the corpse around the hotel on the service cart. The hit guy, Sudhir, is Ray's old acquaintance who required a body to present the Sultan of Qatar in order to earn the $5,000 bounty and was always involved in the scheme. At the airport, Lola mocks Ray for keeping a part of the plan a secret, so the man says he wants her to be part of his new life, not his old one. She asks where they should go, and he says she gets to select. However, when she suggests numerous locations, the man rejects them outright due to multiple pending cases involving his aliases in those nations. Eventually, the two kiss, and Ray notices how much taller Lola is than him. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed the recap. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more movie recaps. Stay tuned for our next cinematic adventure, and until then, happy watching.